Christian parenting.
Welcome to Called to Love, where we discuss all things adoption and foster care and dive into the practical, the clinical, and most importantly, the biblical perspectives to help you and your family thrive. I'm Summer Colbert, adoptive mom, director of adoption and foster ministry, and champion for the Arkansas Baptist Children and Family Ministries. Adoption isn't just a process. It is an invitation to go on a journey with the Lord where you will experience life-changing opportunities to grow in your faith and learn to love in an entirely new way. One thing is for sure, being called to love means you will never be the same. Hey, welcome back, sweet friends, to the Called to Love podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about how to serve foster and adoptive families. And I received an email recently from a friend who was asking for suggestions on how they could serve their friends who are adopting a child from overseas. And this really got me to thinking, we need to be talking about how to serve families, or for families who are in the trenches right now. You need to know how to answer people when they say, "How can I serve you?" So consider today's episode a little how to 101 when it comes to serving foster and adoptive families. You know, the beauty of the body of Christ is that not everyone is called to foster or adopt, but we can all do something. So, continuing on with our highlight of Adoption Awareness Month for the month of November, let's talk about ways that you can support those that you know are called to love in these areas of foster care adoption. Or if you are in the trenches yourself and you don't know what to answer when people say, "How can I help?" Today's episode is for you. You know, I have such a passion to see the Big C church step into this area of service beyond calling people to adopt. It is good to champion that calling of adoption foster care, but there's so many needs surrounding families who step up and say yes to that calling that oftentimes get missed. And families don't want to impose those needs a lot of times. And we need to go back to this idea of the body of Christ and the different parts of the body of Christ stepping in to help families thrive in whatever it is their calling is. And so if the calling is to foster or adopt, then you do that wholeheartedly. And if you have the calling to serve and walk alongside, whatever that looks like through prayer and practical needs, encouragement, all the different things that we're going to dive in today, I want you to be able to thrive in that as well. So foster and adoptive families, if you don't know how to communicate those needs to your people, send them this podcast episode and let them take a quick listen for some practical ways that they can step up and encourage and support you. And if you are waiting to receive your child through adoption or a coming foster care placement as you are opening for a process, go ahead and take in these examples so that when people do offer their help, you can say, "Thank you so much. I want to allow you to bless me because that blesses my service and it blesses the Lord and it blesses that person to be able to use their gifts accordingly." So let's get started. You know, when the time finally comes where you have prepared your home, you have answered the calling, you have gone through the process, you've done the paperwork, you've done all the things, and it finally comes time to embrace the child or children that the Lord has ordained for you to serve or welcome into your family through foster care or adoption. And oftentimes it happens with little warning, but it always happens with much disruption to the normal rhythms of life. Just like welcoming a child through natural birth, that's a different day, right? It's not going to look the same as your normal rhythms and your mundane tasks. And so the same is true when a family welcomes in a child through foster care or adoption. And so I want to encourage people to step into those days just like they do to celebrate the birth. Come in and celebrate alongside and serve and be the hands and feet of Jesus for this family as they are opening their heart and their home to children. And what I love to say is help the families in the practical needs so that the family has margin to minister to a child's heart and do the hard work of heart work. So here are 5 practical ways to minister to a foster or adoptive family with a new child in their home. Okay, number 1, food. Meals, specifically hot meals that can be waiting on a family when they get home, depending on what time they get home in the day. And then consider starting a Sign Up Genius or a meal train or whatever simple online tools that you can utilize to send out to your community and have people sign up to bring a meal about every 2 to 3 days, depending on what the family says that they're comfortable with, and bring them a hot meal. In addition to that, if they're overseas or if they are out of state or even out of town and they've had to go get their child and they're traveling, consider stocking their fridge with all of the basics that you know a family will need for breakfast and lunches, and then have those hot meals delivered to their home as well. This is a tremendous, tremendous blessing so that our families can rest and recover from the trip, the upheaval. And when there's lots of big feelings and big emotions going on in your body, even though they're exciting, you're often very tired because you're coming off of just this emotional high. And eventually you've got to come down, right? And reestablish like normal rhythms and start to set the pace of new rhythms in your home. And we don't know how children are going to respond to their new environment. Depending on their age, there might be a crying baby that's not sleeping much at night. There might be a toddler who's having a difficult time reorienting to a new space, possibly a new language, lots of new smells. There might be animals in the house that they weren't used to before. So there's a lot going on. And the last thing you want to have to do is worry about going to the grocery store or cooking a meal. So, this is a really, really practical way that you can either accept help or offer help to a family. Number two, sticking with the food theme, freezer meals. These are extremely helpful for the family after we kind of come down off of that airport arrival scene, if you will, whatever that looks like for your family. You're going to eventually, like I said, move into a more normal rhythm of life. And sometimes that takes a little bit, but you're still tired. Your bodies are tired. Your mind is tired. You're pouring out a lot and establishing these new rhythms and connecting with your children. And so having freezer meals that you know that you can rely on and pull out of the freezer, thaw it out, stick it in the oven, stick it in the crock pot, that sort of a thing is gold. And it's also a sweet time of fellowship for families who want to serve, and they can get together and create a community event out of it and a time of fellowship while you assemble. Pray for the families while you are putting these food items together, and encourage them through the way that you're serving them by knowing, hey, for the next month, I don't have to think about where my meals are coming from because my sweet community and church family is taking care of that for me. What a tremendous blessing. Number three, throw a sprinkle and bless them with practical items and gift cards, etc. And a sprinkle, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically like a baby shower. And sometimes, through adoption and foster care, oftentimes our kiddos come into our homes and they're not babies, they're older, but yet the family still needs things for the child. It might look like furniture, it might look like clothing and shoes and practical needs, maybe school supplies for a child who's of school age. These are all things that you can come and sprinkle on the family and celebrate the unifying of the new family or welcoming a child in. Now, I do want to say this much. This will be dependent on the child's age and how they are adapting to their new environment, because we don't want to overwhelm them as they're learning a new home, a new family, possibly a new language. There's going to be a lot going on. Different kids have different personalities and different ways and speeds of integrating into their new normal. And so we want to be sensitive to that. We also want to be sensitive in our body language and how we approach the child and the family. There's going to be a lot of excitement, especially for those of you who want to celebrate with your people, to see the fruition and the culmination of God's plan coming together in welcoming that child into the home. But we also need to be sensitive in the energy level that we bring, how we go about honoring them. Some families send out the most precious birth announcements, and it might be somebody who's 14 years old and they say that they're 6'2" and they put their measurements on there just like you would a baby. And if the child is great with that and they want to celebrate in that way, I think that's a fantastic way to say, welcome to our family. You are our child, and we are celebrating that with you. But then there are others who are going to need a little bit of a slower start. And that might mean you just drop off those gifts at their home until they're ready to kind of introduce them into community, whether that be through the church or the school or even family gatherings. Number four, Create a sign-up list for families to commit to checking in on the family for the coming weeks and months. Now, this doesn't have to be anything intrusive or time-consuming. Just a quick text or a call to see how they're doing and ask what needs they might have. Send prayers via text or a voice text. Let them hear your voice or see your words of what you are calling out to God for on their behalf. Because eventually the honeymoon phase wears off, and families can feel alone and even afraid to express the struggles that they might be facing, whether it's connection or difficult behaviors, and they can begin to feel isolated. So, we want to be able to stay connected with our families in a way that respects their boundaries, but also lets them know, I'm here, I care, and I am praying for you. Send notes in the mail with scriptures, send text with scriptures, any way that you can communicate. I see you, I'm honoring the journey that you are on, and I'm here for you if you need me. This is huge. Again, don't stop at just a couple of weeks. Don't even stop at a month. Commit to long-term investing and praying for these families and encouraging them along the way. It will make a tremendous difference. Number 5, encourage them to find and get plugged into a local support group, preferably within a church family if possible. Friends, adoptive and foster families need community with those who understand every facet of their journey. And I know this isn't always available and possible in particular areas, but fortunately, there's an online space for that as well. And so do your research. If you can, before placement happens or before adoption happens, try to do your homework and find out what resources are available in your community, in your state, in your area, and see where you can get plugged in and learn from others who are ahead of you in the journey, and also encourage those who are maybe just starting out. Community makes a tremendous difference. And all of these practical ways that I've shared with you today can be the difference between staying steadfast in your calling or wearing down to the point of wanting to give up. This is hard work that we've been called to do. And it is a blessing to receive and to welcome the body of Christ, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to serve us in the times that we need them. There is no shame in needing help. There is no shame in being tired. Friends, this is holy work in the trenches, and it's not always going to look pretty. There's going to be days that are hard. Lean into your people, or be the people for them that they need. Be available. Be wise in advice that you offer for those of you who are speaking into those that you love and care for as foster and adoptive parents. Words like, I told you so, or I knew you couldn't handle this, or I know this is too hard for you, go ahead and give up. That's not our place to say. This calling is a holy covenant between families and the Lord to love and welcome children that He has ordained for them all along. And they need encouragement, and they need wise words, not words of discouragement. I hope this has been encouragement to you today. I hope this has been very practical. And I want to continue to answer those practical questions. So please keep sending them in. And I would love to create episodes to answer your specific questions and speak to any particular struggle areas that you might be experiencing. I want to take a moment to say thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining this community. And I pray that I can continue to serve you well. And in the meantime, enjoy the lives that God has given you to steward and the calling that He has placed in your hearts, this unique and blessed call to love. See you next time, friends.